Welcome to another episode of Tools, Talents, and Techniques. And I'm joined today by Mr. Donnie Dee. He's the president and CEO of San Diego Rescue Mission. Donnie, welcome to the show. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, you bet. Good to see you again, and thanks for having me on.
Before we go into the backstory and everything, could you just briefly introduce yourself and say a little bit about you and your role?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Donnie Dee, and been the president and CEO for the last 7 years of the San Diego Rescue Mission. Prior to that, I was 27 years with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. FCA was a campus-based summer camp ministry where we used sports to share Christ with the athletes. And I did that for 27 years, primarily because as a college athlete, I was impacted through FCA. And so I always wanted to work for them to say thanks. And that turned into a 27-year career. In, January of 2017, I saw somebody that was homeless as I got off of the freeway. And it's not the first time that I saw somebody that was homeless, but it is the first time I saw him with my heart. And that just began to wreck me. And just, I think, developed a burden for people who are sleeping on the streets. Couldn't understand why, what's working, who's doing what's the root problem. And so I started asking questions, and the next thing you know, here I am. And I've been in this role for 7 years, and it is the most difficult, complicated, exhausting work that I've ever done, but it's also the most rewarding, meaningful, impactful work I've ever done. Those two things combined really make it a great adventure. Married for 36 years. I have 2 kids, a 31-year-old son who's playing basketball in Spain, and a 29-year-old who is a singer-songwriter in Chicago.
That's thank you for giving that context and that background. Yeah. You mentioned something there. You said it was the first time you saw a homeless person with your heart. Tell me about that. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think that, we all have stereotypes. We all have, perceptions about how somebody's life is the way that it is. I'm from a middle-class family in the Midwest, hardworking middle-class family that loves sports. And so don't know that I'd ever really had a relationship with somebody who was currently experiencing homelessness. And when I saw this individual outside my driver's side window, I just started getting these thoughts based on my perception. And the thoughts were, why are you there? You probably have an addiction. I don't think you want to work. How much would money change your situation? Where's your family? Do you have a family? Where's your mom? She's probably worried sick about you. And just kind of all these thoughts that were bouncing around in my head. And then the light turned green and I turned left and didn't think anything else about it. But the next morning when I got into my office working for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, I got an email from a friend with the job description for this position. And she just said in that email, this is you. And so, it wasn't an audible voice from God, but I just began to go through the process to try to figure out, is this burden that's developing inside of me? Is that something? Is there something there that I need to pay attention to? Because I certainly want to be where God wants me to be. And that was the beginning of me beginning to see people experiencing homelessness differently, really. That it's not just about a job. The government would tell you that homelessness is a housing issue. Just build more houses and you'll eliminate homelessness. Most San Diegans would tell you that homelessness is a drug and alcohol issue. Just stop drinking and stop using. We would tell you at the San Diego Rescue Mission that homelessness is actually a heart issue, HEART, a heart issue. And until you have a program where they can address the issues of the heart, all you're really doing is just moving people around, because you're not fixing the root problem of what has caused them to make bad decisions, sleep on the streets, be addicted to drugs or alcohol.
One of the initiatives that, as I understand it, and I'd love to hear you, dive deeper into this, is within San Diego and San Diego County surrounding areas, it seems like the efforts are disjointed. There's a lot of people doing different things. And you mentioned the way people look at it, whether it's addiction, whether it's housing, it's these things. But everyone's attacking this or approaching this from a different angle. Am I understand this correctly? Is part of what you're doing is bringing these counties and these different organizations together? Is that part of it?
Yeah, I think that's partly true. I do think that this is unfortunately a decentralized approach to a global problem. And I do believe that everybody's working hard, but we're not coordinated. We're operating in silos. And I would tell you that, what most people are doing is what they're getting the funding to do. And so if the government tells you to put people in housing and don't case manage, and you can't require them to stop using, and you can't drug test, well, you're going to do that because that's the stipulations of the funding that you got. And I would tell you that's the elephant in the room. That's why this problem has continued to grow, is because we are doing things that we get funding for, not doing things that get results. And because we don't take any government funding, and our donors, 24,000 active donors, expect us to get people off the streets, well, then we get to try things, move, do new things, pivot, make adjustments, do whatever we have to do to help somebody get off the streets permanently. And that's what we're doing. Am I pulling people together? We're pulling municipalities together. We're pulling mayors together. We're pulling city managers together. We're trying to have a presence in the political scene because we recognize that policy is an important part of us changing the state of homelessness in San Diego, for sure. The other agencies, it's tough because, they're gonna, they've got their own compliance. They got their own commitments. They got their own values. I think we all want to get people off the streets, but they have to do what their funding dictates that they do, and whether that works or not. And I think we all see how much homelessness has exploded around the country, particularly in California, where 31% of the nation's homeless are right here in our state. And we've spent $2 billion, $2 billion with a B as in boy, billion in San Diego County over the past 7 years. And I don't think anybody that lives here would say, it looks like, what we're doing is working. So that's why we decided we had to do some things differently. That because it's not about where the money comes from, it's about our donors tell us go get results. And so we decided to open up remote sites, and we decided to be more commitment to rehabilitation. And those are working. That system is working.
Yeah, those statistics and numbers themselves are shocking.
Mind-boggling.
But you alluded to some of the things that are working. Can you talk a little bit about the genesis of those programs and the things that you're doing and you're having success with?
Yeah, I think that outreach is working. We made a commitment that we can't wait for people to come to us. We have this big building downtown San Diego. It's a 100,000 square foot facility with 360 beds, and can't wait for you to be ready. I got to go meet you where you're at. You are hopeless. You dropped anchor. You don't think you can change. And so you're not going to wake up one day and go, hey, I'm just going to go see if the rescue mission can help me. I mean, there's no motivation. There's a lack of discipline. You're as discouraged as you've ever been. You've given up. And the daunting task in your mind of unwinding this complicated situation of homelessness is not just a job. It's not just income. Like, it's legal, it's emotional, it's relational, it's spiritual, it's physical health. You don't get healthier sleeping on the sidewalks, you get unhealthier. Did you know 624 people died sleeping on the streets in 2023?
No.
624. Yeah, I don't know why we're not talking about it. I don't know why that's not on the news every night. I don't know if you were in San Diego in 2017-ish, but that was when Mayor Faulkner was the mayor, and we had a hepatitis A outbreak, and about 12 people died. And it was on national news. And people were calling me from all over the country. I ain't coming to San Diego. I'm supposed to go out there for a convention. I'm not coming. 12. And yet last year alone, 624. And I fully expect that number to be greater this year than it was last year because there's just more people sleeping on the streets. And they're dying from health-related issues. They're dying from stabbings, murders, getting hit by cars. They're checking all the boxes, but they're taking their last breath sleeping on the streets, and we get those numbers from the coroner's office.
Man, that's so tough to hear, but it's something that needs to be heard. It absolutely needs to be. And that's one of the reasons why I think this conversation is so important. I talk a lot on the show. I meet with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of executives, former athletes, people that are high performers. And I like to highlight those things, but sometimes it's those successes and some of those journeys. But I think it's really important to really highlight this deep work, like these things that are right in front of our face that I feel like aren't getting enough attention. That's why I'm so grateful for you to be able to. I'm so grateful for you to be here sharing this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You'd mentioned what's working, and so I think I started down that path and just got lost on outreach. I think outreach is working. We're doing that differently. We're engaging people where they're at. We realize that Most of what we're doing as a society is we're telling the person while they're in their tent to do this, to do that, to go here, to go there, and they're not going. And so with outreach, we're trying to build trust and we're trying to get you inside. And with these remote sites that we've launched, they're first class. They are at no porta potties, no portable showers, no prepackaged meals. These are first class facilities with air conditioning, and it's safe and it's secure, and you can just walk in when they want. There's an actual secure door with security officers, and so we're eliminating a person's current crisis and current fear that they're safe, they're housed, they're showering, they're eating, and they actually a case manager. So we're learning that not only outreach and getting people inside, but with our shower trailer, that we have 2 of those that have been sponsored by donors. It's about $150,000 unit, a truck that pulls a 4-stall shower trailer. We post those up around the county where there's large tenant cameras, and we give people the opportunity to get a shower. And when people start feeling like people again, they start acting like people again. And that's been a game changer. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. We kind of stumbled into it like we do everything else, just trying new things, having different conversations. That is working. And then I would tell you the thing that's working most is just rehab. Like, when somebody's homeless, it took them a while to get there. And just wake up one day and end up on the streets. There's a number of things a number of bad decisions, a number of circumstances, a number of things that were done to them, a number of things that they did to others. And they find themselves sleeping on the street. So we got to unwind that. And that doesn't happen because you spend 30 days at an orgy shelter. So our rehab facility downtown is working. We call you a student. You go to class. You have case management. You can see the therapist. You can go to the doctor. It is all there. And it's set up for you to eliminate your homelessness if you want to. And I tell you, we're finding those things are actually working.
I want to talk a little bit about the Donnie Dee origin story, because you are obviously a man of deep faith. Did you grow up in the church in your family? Like how did this?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. That's the thing I'm most passionate about. Is that I grew up in the church and had gone to church not every weekend, but my mom. I'm the oldest of 4 from a broken home, and father was an alcoholic, but he was also a very accomplished athlete. He played for the Indiana Pacers, and he won a gold medal in the 1968 Olympics playing basketball for USA Basketball. And so it's a lot to look up to, but he is also an alcoholic. And so, it made him not a great family man, not a great father, not a great husband. And so my mom left and took the kids with her. And I think she understood the importance of staying connected to church and tried to teach us about God. But I didn't really understand what it meant to have a relationship with God and what it really meant to know who Jesus is until I was a freshman in college. I went to the University of Tulsa on a football scholarship, full ride football scholarship, and I got hurt my first month there. And I went from competing for a position to standing on the freaking sidelines. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what? It can be taken away that easily? No, because in high school, I was all state, I was all American, I got lots of honors and just, running hard, going and doing my thing, and never thought about getting hurt. And then you get hurt and it gets taken away. And so I realized this shouldn't be the most important thing in my life. This is opportunity for sure. And I want to take advantage of it, but it shouldn't be the most important thing in my life. And there were some guys involved in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes that said to me, football is not the most important thing in my life. And I said, what is? And they said their relationship with Christ. And so over a period of time, they just began to share that with me. And one night in a dorm room at the University of Tulsa, I made my own commitment to understand what Jesus did for me on the cross and to accept that in my life. And it's a little bit like my perception about homelessness. I mean, I knew enough about homelessness to have a conversation, but I didn't really understand homelessness. I knew enough about God to have a conversation, but I didn't really know God. And it wasn't until I was a freshman and in college that I started my own little journey, and not knowing where that would lead. But I played 2.5 years in the National Football League, and then went to work for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and did that for 27 years, mostly as a desire to say thanks to this organization that had told me about God, had given me so much. I wanted other athletes. And so I think my big takeaway walking with God all these years is that nobody's perfect. We all have stuff. I'm just so grateful that he's never left me nor forsaken me, and that he loves me, and that, that it's not based on my performance. It's not based on what I do. It's just based on that I'm his child. I'm his son. And I get to call him dad, and I feel his presence. I feel, the thing about down here is I feel his pleasure, man. I feel like when we're serving a group of people that get talked about, get looked past, get walked past, that are dealing with so much shame internally, and then we feed it externally by the way we treat them, that they're just this broken state of a human being that God created. Same God that created them, created you, created me. Same God. That when we serve them, then I feel his pleasure. It's like, dang, he's happy. He's pleased with this. He's pleased that we're serving the least of these. And then the Bible's full of scripture that talk about the need to do that and his desire for us to do that.
Well, this is where I see this trending, and what part of my question is, when you're reading this and you're surrounded by this and all of your study with Christianity and Christ and the teachings in the Bible, like it's full of those things. So when you it took a while for you to come across this, to see the homeless with your heart. Was it something like, oh my gosh, like maybe this was in my, staring me in the face this whole time? No, yeah.
Yeah, no way. I had no plans to leave FCA. It's what I had, been doing for 27 years. I was at a place in 2017 where I was playing a lot of golf, spending a lot of time with donors, and training young staff. That's a sweet gig. That's a sweet gig. But I was restless. I knew there was something inside of me that was longing for something more. Like, there's other people that can raise money, play golf, and spend time with young staff. I want to do what I had been uniquely created to do, and I want to honor God with that. And when I started to get restless, I realized that he was trying to get my attention, and so I just tried to pay attention. I just tried to pay attention. And I think that little encounter with that homeless dude was the beginning of him saying, hey, we're about to move you in another direction. Get ready. And look, my theology is that I think I could have stayed with FCA. And I think he would have blessed it. And I think I could have pleased him. And I think I could have seen some great things happen. But I didn't want to miss out. I didn't want to miss out on what he was about to do with the homeless population in San Diego. And I was convinced that he was about to do something. And then look, man, as I look back on my last 7 years here, I could spend the rest of the podcast telling you stories about how I've seen his hand, how I've seen his work, how I've seen him show up, how I see him doing things that, I just we get to be a small part of it here at St.
Yeah. When I think of moments in my life that are so poignant, where it felt like I have to do this, almost like when you feel like you mentioned, like the hand of like, you have to do this. This is a calling more than anything. Sometimes they feel so vivid. Like you call to that moment when you saw that person, how vivid is that moment? I mean, how often do you think of that specific moment when you saw that guy?
I think about it often because it was the beginning of a process. There's another moment I think about almost weekly, and that is just a conversation I was having with God, not an audible voice, but in my spirit. And I got that job description from a friend who said, this is you. I showed it to my wife, and I didn't do anything with it. 2 weeks passed, and I'm with my wife about to pray and go to sleep, and she says, what'd you ever do with that rescue mission thing? We support them and have for a lot of years. I go, well, no, I didn't know we support them because you write all the checks and you don't give me no money. So how would I know that? How would I know that? And she laughed, and she goes, well, what'd you ever do with that? I go, well, I didn't do nothing with it. She goes, why not? I go, because I don't know anything about homelessness. I don't know anything about work therapy. I don't know anything about drug and alcohol recovery. I don't know anything about that work. And she didn't say a word. She just kind of shook her head like, oh, okay. And this isn't what she said, because she didn't say a word. She just shook her head at me and laid down and went to sleep. But I was up all night thinking about what that meant. And what that meant was, you're not even gonna see if this is something God wants you to do. You're not even gonna send in your stuff. You're not gonna pray about it. I mean, this isn't how we make decisions, and not how you've ever made any decisions. You take this stuff seriously, and you're just going to blow it off. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna blow it off because I don't know anything about homelessness, and that's not sounds like something I want to do. And so the moment that I want to tell you about is I'm in my car the next day, and I'm driving into my office, and I'm processing the exchange I had with my wife the night before, and now I'm talking to God, and I'm giving him the script. God, I don't know anything about homelessness. I don't know anything about work therapy. I don't know anything about drug. I mean, I'm going through it. I don't know anything about drug. I've convinced myself that this is not something that I'm supposed to do, and there's plenty of work to do here in FCA. And what I heard God say, not in an audible voice, but had it been in an audible voice, it wouldn't have been any more clear to me. He said this. He goes, this is not about you. This is not about you. Not about what you know, not about what you've done, not about what you've experienced, not about you. And that sounds like something God would say. That 100% sounds like something God would say. It's about him, and it's about following him, and it's about trusting him, and it's about this adventure, man. It's about this journey. This adventure's hard as hell. I mean, it's crazy. This place should be a reality TV show, because if we were televising what was going on down here, you'd be tuning in. It'd be your favorite show. You tune in every week just to see what happened down at the mission this week.
I bet. Hey, that's a whole other show. That's a whole other podcast.
We should do that, man. I'm telling you. I'm trying to figure out how to monetize that. But the cameras always show you guys what goes on down here. But that was the moment. And I think back on that moment all the time, because it was the defining moment that I could stay doing what I'm doing. And if I'm too scared to follow God on this, then, that's fine. But I went right to the office because I felt like he was telling me. So, and I filled out that application. I sent it in. And to my surprise, they offered me the job.
Wow. Yeah. I'm glad you got the job. You're doing a heck of a job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I know it's not easy. It's not easy. You're tasked with probably the hardest job, I mean, out there. I mean, trying to solve or tackle this challenge is, and there's no blueprint. Like, trying to create the blueprint and doing things that are successful, but a trial and error, I'm sure, and things that work and many that don't. Is there anything that you've seen from other municipalities, other organizations, either locally or globally, nationally, that have things that you're like, oh, we can take a little bit from there or take from there? Is there any resources that you have? Like,
yeah, no, I think we developed this based on input from lots of other rescue missions. There's about 350 rescue missions that are a part of association like ours. Like, they're not all as big. We would be considered one of the top 10 largest missions in the country, I would think. 172 employees now. How they all getting paid, I have no idea, but 172 employees. But I've been to Atlanta, I've been to Indianapolis, I've been to Grand Rapids, I've been to Houston, I've been to both of them in LA. That was traumatic. I've been to Orange County, I've been to Bend, Oregon, I've been to Portland, I've been to Seattle, I've been to Denver. Denver is probably my favorite. And when I go, we're all serving a similar population that has similar circumstances around how to try to get people off the streets. Now, they all do it differently, but I pulled things that I have tried to adopt here. The shower trailer I got from another mission. I realized that we probably are more committed to rehab because of our facility than any other mission in the country. Rehab's expensive. They're going to live with you for how long? 12 months. You're going to take care of everything for a year: housing, food, clothing, everything. That's expensive. But we are convinced that apart from rehab, all you're doing is moving people around. Just moving people around because you didn't address the issues of the heart. I have learned things about emergency shelters. Our remote sites, we call them lighthouses, but they're essentially emergency shelters. That's all they are. Just overnight facilities to get you off the streets and eliminate your current crisis. We've learned that. Staffing, hiring processes, HR software, CRMs. Man, we've learned a ton of stuff from a whole bunch of other missions that has helped us to get where we are today. For sure.
Is there anything that you want to make sure, because I thank you so much for sharing this time today, but I want to make sure to give you an opportunity. Is there anything else that you want to share of how people can get more love?
Yeah, I think the thing that really keeps me in awe is that for 70 years, long before I got here, they've never taken any government funding. Not a dollar. And so how do you do that? How do you actually do that? How do you privately fund a $20 million budget? It's because there's just a lot of generous people out there. There's a lot of kind people that they may not know how to have a conversation with somebody experiencing homelessness, but they know how to support an organization that does. And to me, that's the X factor. That we have 24,000 active donors, that we had 2,000 volunteers last year, that we'll have 150 show up at a breakfast appreciation on Saturday morning, tomorrow, actually. And then you got this whole community. That's the word that I want to put out there to you. Is you just have this whole community. You know, people, you have full-time staff, you have volunteers, you have donors, you have churches, you have businesses. You have guys like you that are willing to, you know, bring us on your show and let us tell your listeners what we do. And there's just this caring community that we don't hear a lot about. What we hear about is the homeless problem's growing. We're spending more money. The services aren't coordinated. This is a train wreck. Somebody needs to do something. Who's to blame? And we don't hear that there really is some things to be proud of. And I think the fact that this community funds this approach is pretty remarkable. Absolutely. And I meet the new people that we take in off the streets on Thursdays at 2:30, and I tell them, there's no government money in this facility. This is an opportunity for you. There's a whole bunch of donors that give to us generously, that make contributions to us so that we can offer our services to you for free. This is not going to cost you nothing. We're not going to shake you down. And we're not going to bill insurance. We're not looking for your family to see if they have resources. This is free. Take advantage of it. And the best way that you can say thanks to these donors that you will never meet, you'll never meet them. Most of them never even been down to our facility. Very few of them been down to our facility. They just care. And the best way you can thank them is to get well, is to fix your life, is to work the program so that you can eliminate your homelessness. That keeps me in awe, man. And it drives me, because I was with a couple yesterday that just, gave us a check for $10,000 that keep to go work. And so I get to put that in the tank, and we keep rolling down the road, helping as many people as we can until, we're never going to eliminate homelessness. Jesus said the poor will always be among you, but I don't think it has to be as bad as it is today. I think if we built a better system, we could get people off the streets faster, and that people don't have to experience homelessness as long as they are. And to me, that's one of the problems with our homeless situation is that we just not as coordinated as we should be, and people have a place to go, so they're dropping an anchor and camping out.
Well, I am so thankful for everything that you're doing. I'm honored that you share this time with me and everything that you do, and not just you. It's like your whole team. Kara Mears,
Great. She's great.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and her family and the whole community. I know even, the Fleet Logics guys who have been to the golf tournament, and how there's so many great people that, to your point, that are involved with what you're doing. And again, you're not gonna fix all of this, but you're sure doing your part, and people are doing their part. So
thank you.
I'm going to include a couple things in the show notes for links to your organization, links to some of your social medias, and also some donation abilities and how people can be involved. So I'll make sure to share the message whenever I can, because I really think you're doing.
SDRescue.org has everything you need from a volunteer standpoint, from a donation standpoint. Has our strategies, our approach. You can see our past 990s. It's all there if you go to SDRescue.org. And just appreciate you letting us do this. I hope I get a link to this so I can spread it around and let people know that I got to be on the Dustin Sutton show.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it. Donnie Dee, thank you so much for your time.
God bless you. See you again, brother.